Good.
And then we'll just talk about your story, and we can talk a little bit about your coaching program. Whatever you want to lead into, we can definitely go into that. And we're getting ready to hit our 100,000 downloads, which is before a year. And I'm so excited. Like, I'm like, what? Who's listening to these? Like, why?
Oh,
But I'm
perfect.
really excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to get us right in. Hi, Lissa. It's Jana, and I'm here with Bailey Frumen, and she's a cover of our summer magazine, so I'm really excited to have her, and we're going to push her up so that she's not coming out after the magazine's gone. So let's just get her ready in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Bailey Frumen. Bailey is a psychotherapist, motivational speaker, coach, and author. And after realizing that her life-work balance was suffering, she decided to make a change. And since then, she's been leveraging her skills and expertise to author her book, Own Your Power, which is one of my favorite books, Your Guide to Feeling Powerful, Fearless, and Free. Through her unique coaching programs, Bailey has helped hundreds of leaders in the entrepreneurs to realize their higher purpose and maintain a balance with their lives. When Bailey isn't coaching, she can be found playing at the beach and riding bikes with her daughter, Phoebe. I hear, by the way, Bailey, I know Bailey's mom, or her mom, and I love her mom. We travel a lot, and our trip got canceled this year because of COVID, but I hear about Phoebe all the time.
Phoebe is a minor celebrity. She's a celebrity in her own right, really.
I just love hearing about the grandbabies all the time from her. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And one of the things that we do here is we share our stories of hope. And I know you have several powerful stories that have pivoted you into where you're at now. And I was hoping you could share one of them with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. And I mean, not only this being able to be on the show, but having the cover of the summer edition of Best Holistic Life. I'm like double whammy in Jenna's world. This is amazing.
Well, I couldn't think of anyone else to take the cover issue. Like by the way, you're going to find a friend of yours in there.
I did, and she already messaged me, right? And I think, but it's a friend of mine, a friend of yours, but I think that that's also part of the path is like our lines intersect when we're speaking a collective language, but it's about how do we get to that collective language spot. And I know for me, and I'm happy to share my story of hope because that moment for me was really pulled over on the side of the road in the middle of a panic attack and saying like, what am I doing with my life? You know, something needs to change. So this was back in 2013. And at the time, I was working full-time as a school social worker with my private practice as a psychotherapist. I was also working 2 other part-time jobs in the social work realm with at-risk youth and then with a bariatric population at the hospital. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And how many of us can relate to that where we're wearing multiple hats? And even if that hat is even more than, you know, mother, sister, husband, partner, you know, friend, we wear multiple hats in our life. But what about when we are working so much and taking care of everyone but ourselves? And that crossroad hit me like a ton of bricks back in 2012, 2013. In fact, at that time, we were trying to get pregnant with said Phoebe, our little lady, and nothing's happening. And I'm saying to myself, wait a second, I'm doing the yoga. I'm drinking the kale juice. Like, what do you mean there's no baby? And, you know, go to the doctor's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Well, what I was realizing from the panic attacks and the overworking was that I was suffering from adrenal fatigue. Right? And it wasn't until I had that like aha moment. And the first aha moment was, aha, this needs to change, right? And then it's what happens after that when we realize that something has to change. Well, for many of us, we will deny the call, right? Something needs to change, but you know, maintaining homeostasis, maintaining life as we know it, business as usual is almost easier. And even if it's uncomfortable, a lot of times it's what we know we'll stick with. Right? How many of us have stayed in an uncomfortable situation because it's what we've known, whether that's the work, the health, the relationship, frankly, half the time our habits or the way that we treat ourselves, we'll stay in it because it's what we know. And when we have these ahas and they just won't go away, right? And I had the aha, like something had to change. And of course, you think with the first panic attack that I would start to make a pivot. It wasn't the first, it wasn't the second, it wasn't even the third. It was probably after about 2 months of these panic attacks coming, especially when I was driving or in the middle of the night, like, what am I doing with my life? Sweats. And I had checked all the boxes, right? Successful business, bank accounts approve it, traveling, had my own house, and was married. And I'm like, wow, like, isn't this all the things that I should want? But the one thing that I wasn't doing was checking in with, who am I and what do I actually want? Instead, we get stuck in this pattern of living our life like a to-do checklist and not even putting our actual selves, our heart, our soul on the menu. So I love when you said, well, we're going to talk about a story of hope. I'm like, well, the story of hope, where does that grow from? It grows from those moments when we feel hopeless, right? When we feel stuck, we still feel frustrated, we feel uncertain, we have no idea how to fix it. We just know that it's just not working. And for me, that was about making a pivot. And what I said to myself, which was a hard look after building everything around me, and I'm sure lots of people have been in this moment, when you look around at the marriage or the career, the family that you've built, and say to yourself, like, this isn't what I want it to look like. Now what? And that can be really scary. And for me, it was swallowing that very scary pill and then saying, well, this isn't what I want it to look like. What do I want it to look like? And breaking it down piece by piece. So a lot of that is in my book, Own Your Power. How do we make a pivot? How do we make a change? How do we start to own our power and put the pieces together of what we do want life to look like? And for me, that took probably about 6 months, a year, and it was slow going. People, a lot of times they think that when you're a psychotherapist or when you're a coach, like that you should have it all together. But the truth is, we come by way of our wisdom, not only from textbooks, but also from life experiences that teach us what it really means to feel face down in the dirt and how we rise again from that. So from a combination of things, from acupuncture to some supplements, to slowing down, to doing the yoga, to frankly putting myself to bed earlier and getting better sleep, I was able to start to shift and find that hope of, okay, things are feeling better, they're looking better. And what came out of that was my company. So then at the end of 2013, going into 2014 is when we launched my company. And then we shifted everything from psychotherapy and into coaching and working with leaders and entrepreneurs on mastering their mindset. Well, I couldn't have even invented that when I was pulled over on the side of the road, right? When your cup is empty and kind of like smashed on the ground, there's no like ahas coming of like inspiration, unicorns and ponies. Like, no, it's not. But it's when you slow down and you start to actually turn down the volume on what's not working and turn up the volume on what really resides inside. And that's how my story of hope started.
I absolutely love your story of hope. And I want to touch a little bit about your coaching business. Right before we went on the podcast, we were talking about how those lines have gotten extremely blurred, especially online. It's not necessarily a bad thing or even coming from a bad place. A lot of times people just have such a desire to serve and help others that they step outside of their area of expertise. And I always say, and I'm telling you, even doctors take this oath, right? First, do no harm. And so it's really important that you stay in your lane, you stay in the lane that you're trained for. And that is one of the great things that you do at your coaching courses that you teach, is helping you see that blurred line and recreate what side we're supposed to be on as coaches. We are not therapists. And as coaches in maybe nutrition, we're probably not going to work with someone with depression, right? So we have to know what that is. How do you do that? How do you separate that when you're working with your clients?
That's a great question, a really great question. I think that when you are doing your best as a coach, and regardless of what coach hat you have on, you can be the business coach, a life coach, a nutrition coach. And at the end of the day, the best gift that we can give our clients is to be well resourced. So if you are, being a health coach and you see that actually someone's kind of going through something relationship kind of funky or emotionally funky, what we do is we get ourselves well resourced so that you can point them in the right direction. I think sometimes as helpers, healers, or even light workers in the world, what we want to do is we want to help people to solve all their problems. And truth be told is that we're not supposed to be the master of everything. We're supposed to be well resourced and point people in the right direction. So yes, from my background as a psychotherapist, and especially this influences, we have a life and leadership coach training program as one of the divisions of our company, MindRise. And with our life and leadership coach training, that is one of the things that we talk about, is not only like how to be a life and leadership coach, but where's the line between coaching and therapy? And that doesn't mean that you can't work with somebody who's actively in therapy. No, you can actually have great coaching goals and even more success when you work in a collaborative model. But when we have some of those red flags that come up, where someone's activities of daily functioning have decreased, or that they are a danger to themselves or others, those are some of the bigger red flags. I think that that's when we do not pass go, do not collect $200, and we go straight to let's create a solution. And the solution is often comes by way of having a great team.
I think that is 100% accurate. And if we could just be able to extend that out and realize that we're helping, even though we're having to be part of a team, I think it works even better. There's more power in numbers, right? One of the other things that you talked about, and I think is so important, because I hear this from the coaches I work with all the time, and I only take on 20 coaches and they have to be experts in their field. And they tell me all the time, like, and it's hard for me to believe that they just can't make any money online. Like they cannot get their value online. And when I hear what they're doing, they're the only person in their way. They want to serve and show up and serve so much that as nurturers and healers and in our little realm of coaching, we tend to be givers too. And how do you help them through that? Because I think it's so important that they know that they can be 6 and 7 figure earners. And that doesn't mean that they're being greedy or selfless or that they're taking instead of giving. There's a give and take in what we do.
Well, and to be a good giver, you have to be a great receiver. That's the truth, right? You can't give from an empty cup. And while, yes, sure, that could be on like a bumper sticker. The truth is that when we get ourselves well resourced, and a lot of times people say to me like, well, Bailey, like, who's your coach? And I'm like, coach, I got 3 coaches, 2 therapists, a shaman, like massage therapist, yoga instructor, right? Like it takes a village. And I think that that's what's one of the most important things, is that we see that when we want to do big things, we have to get, and to my point before, we have to get ourselves well resourced. So I hear what you're saying. A lot of times people think that they don't want to be greedy, or that they shouldn't charge for their services. And we're not doing anybody any favors when we're not charging for our services, because what we do is we hold back from allowing our clients to show up for themselves, right? Like, if you're paying for the, let's just say $100 gym membership versus the $10 a month gym membership, which gym are you going to be showing up more often at? I'll be telling you it's the one that I'm investing the most, because we invest in direct correlation to how we feel about ourselves. Funny enough, back in my psychotherapy days, when the bill was being paid by the insurance company and somebody might have a minimal copay, I would have cancellations last minute, left and right. And, that was just kind of the nature of how things went at the time. I'll tell you, when it comes to my coaching practice, when someone's choosing actively to invest in themselves, and a lot of times insurance companies aren't involved, I rarely have cancellations. People are showing up for themselves. So I think that, and I want to speak to one more point when it comes to being a 6 or 7 figure earner, because, well, it'll be one point, part A and point B. Part B is that I'm not particularly special. And Jana, you're amazing, but you're not particularly special either. Like we're not lucky. This didn't like happen by accident, or will they have it figured out? And no. And that's what I try to tell my clients and our coaches within the coach training program is, I'm not particularly special. It's just a matter of believing in yourself. So when we talk about being a good receiver and making sure that you're charging for your services and charging what you're worth as well, because there's a correlation on what we're vibrating on, is that I want everyone to remember, and if you hear nothing else that we've talked about, all of this podcast, and I want you to hear this one thing, is that when you invest in yourself and when you charge what you're worth, guess what you get to do? You get to invest in other things that you believe in. You get to support local businesses. You get to make investments in your business, make investments in other people around you. To me, when I shop local, or I hire a landscaper, or I hire somebody to help me to paint my house or design something for me, like you are contributing, you're paying it forward. So when we start to think about that, like, it's important that you earn a good living so that you can pay it forward. And I think sometimes we miss that step, or we forget about that step. It's so important because in essence, in life, you vote and you design your life by how you spend your money. You want to spend your money on, save the otters? Awesome. Earn a lot of money so you can save a lot of otters, right? Right. That's what it kind of comes.
100%. I
Yeah.
think it's so funny because when we went to college, like when your parents went to college or you went to college or Steve and I, when we showed up, I was a single mom in college. I had to work 3 jobs to get through college and raise a baby by myself at a very young age. When I showed up to pay my college tuition, they didn't look at me and hear my sad story. It was like, if you can't pay it, you're going to have to get a loan. And you know what? This is what we do here. They didn't give me a discount. They didn't feel bad for me. It's just what it was for me to, the price I had to pay to get my education. Sometimes there's a price you have to pay to get healthy or to invest in yourself, to move forward. And that price sometimes just might be your services. And I have found, you are absolutely right. When you don't charge, you will get a lot of cancellations because there's no investment on their side. There's just none. Or if you're charging too little, I had a client that only charged $297 for a 12-week program. She filled up constantly, but only like 60% of her people finished. And the other 40 were like, that wasn't for me. I didn't like it. And when she asked me why, I told her there's not a big enough investment. I'd walk away too if I got bored when it started getting tough. It's super easy to walk away from $297. She changed it to $2,997, filled her class, and nobody quit. But she had a block that she wasn't worth that. It was 12 weeks. She was absolutely worth that. And they knew that. And those people who invested in themselves completed the course. They were extremely happy. And she does really well at that price range now.
Yeah. Oh, 110%. Absolutely. And I mean, we have to start somewhere. So I understand when you're very, very first starting off and you want to have a couple of scholarship clients, there's an intention, there's an energy exchange, there's a testimonial exchange, and I understand. But if you continue to give away your value for free, guess what you're saying to the universe is that I don't have value. And that just won't work, right? Because then how are we going to consider ourselves effective in supporting and helping others when we're not valuing ourselves? So yeah, I'm so glad. I was just going to say the same thing. I was like, she needs to put in like a 2 in front of that.
And if you were like having panic attacks to the point you're pulling over in your car, sobbing and breaking down, and you go to your computer and you start Googling help with panic attacks or something, it's your health. You're not bargain shopping. You're not going to be in there like, I'm in my car breaking down crying. For me, I literally typed in the words desperate for health answers when I was sick, looking for solutions. And I was not bargain shopping. I wanted to survive. I wanted to live or move past that place that I was stuck. And
Right.
so they're going to throw those bargains right out.
Right. I mean, do you go to checkout at Target and then say, actually, I really think that this item is worth $5, not $50? Like,
Oh,
why do
Bailey,
we?
have you met Steve?
He's bargaining at the Costco
He
checkout or
does.
something.
No,
Oh,
he does.
that's
Can
amazing.
I tell
Oh,
you that a lot of times it works? Like a lot of times, I just walk away, but he'll go Christmas shopping at Best Buy and have all these electronics and a thing, and he'll call manager over and says, I'm buying all this. What can you do?
I
I
love
kid
it.
you not. And it works.
Well, and you know what that is? What my grandmother would call chutzpah, right? You got to put yourself out there. And I think that's also part about being a high earning coach is you put yourself out there and you say, this is what my services are worth. And guess what? It's worth that and more because you're going to continue to invest in yourself. I'll tell you, I'll never work with a coach, a teacher, a mentor that's not a student themselves because we should always be learning. We should always be upping our game. We should always be inquisitive and curious about more, expanding a different version of ourselves. I remember, so let's go back to that 2013, pulled over the side of the road, suffering from adrenal fatigue. And it was a doctor who was not only a functional medicine doctor, she was the head of emergency services for a major teaching hospital. And guess what she was doing for fun? Putting herself through law school because she was so mad at the insurance companies that she wanted to be able to fight them from an intelligent place. I mean, brilliant. But she was always expanding and growing herself. And we should all take a page from her book that there's so much more for us to learn. So in order for you to continue to learn that, you have to be investing in yourself. Just like you said, you went to go into the bursar's office to pay your college tuition. They weren't negotiating. No, you want to make it happen. You've got to invest in yourself.
Yep. They don't do payment plans. It was like, this is what you owe. You
Right.
want to be here, what you pay. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Very, very true. But it is like, where there's a will, there's a way.
100%. What I want to tell you though is a little bit about your book. One of my favorite things about your book is I'm a mindset coach. And I found that all through your book, you really were creating these very visual blueprint for your brain to move forward. And I'm all about like that blueprint, whatever you want to do, whatever that vision is, if your mind doesn't start seeing a way to it and is only seeing the obstacles, it'll just root past it. But if you start putting that gorgeous blueprint in there, those little teeny things that are popping up constantly, you're creating a blueprint that your mind has no choice but to head towards it. And your book does that so beautifully. It was my absolute favorite thing about your book.
Thank you so much. No, and I really appreciate that. I think that we only grow in direct correlation to the depth of the questions that we ask ourselves. So if we're not asking ourselves questions that help us to grow, if we're just stuck in like chocolate or vanilla, like peanut butter and jelly or ham and cheese, if we're just stuck in those small questions, we're not going to expand ourselves very much. And that's what it takes to be able to grow, is asking the questions. So yeah, it's interesting when the book was ready to come out, my editor was like, "This is 2 books. You've got to have a workbook to it." I said, "No. We're putting everything in one book. We're going to put the journaling questions in there. We're going to put the tools in there," because that's what I have read so many personal development books, and you make maybe some notes in the margin or highlight a couple of parts or maybe even put a post-it, but then inevitably it goes on your shelf and it becomes shelf shame, right? We don't actually do anything with it. There it goes, and it becomes an afterthought for so many of us. And I wanted the book to be interactive, an experience that sticks with you. So, I mean, I've had people who've emailed me or DM'd me and have said, "Oh my God, I've been carrying your book around with me for 3 months." Or I took your book with me backpacking on my latest vacation. I mean, can I tell you how many selfies I've gotten with the book, which I love every single time. But yeah, in order to grow, you have to have the right tools. And that's why coaching works too. It's having those tools, those questions to look at our life a little bit differently.
I know as an author, I love when someone brings me my book for a signature and it's messed the heck up. I know that it's got notes in it, it's got dog ears, it's like got copy stains. I took my book, The Universe Has Your Back, because Gabby Bernstein's one of my favorite authors. And I went when she released her Super Attractor book, but I took my Universe Has Your Back book. And when I got her to sign it, she's like, "Oh my gosh, this book is a mess. I've got to get you a new copy." But I read that book like maybe 4 times a year because I just feel like it feeds my soul, like little gentle reminders and nudges to be paying attention. And so I remember thinking, I love seeing my book all messed up too when people come to me. And I know you do too, when you see they've written the notes in there and they've messed it all up. It's not like they're bringing you this brand new book. "I loved your book. Did you open it?"
Right. Did you actually read that? Oh gosh. I remember having an interview with Marnelli Martin, who is the founder of Lux 30. And she's amazing. And when we did our interview on Zoom, she had probably 4 different colors of Post-its within my book because she had used 4 different pads of Post-its she had so many things dog-eared and marked, and it was just great because it is an interactive experience. Like life is an interactive experience. Like, you didn't come here to play small or hide your light. Like, let's play full out. This is not dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. Like, this is game on. There is no understudy who's going to show up and magically be you for a day so you can have a day off. No, like, this is your real life. And what are you going to do with your one precious life? And that's why I think that when we have the right tools, when we have those aha moments, when we have, great podcasts or magazines or just tools that create a collective conversation, shared friends, because we're speaking the same language. Like, to me, that's what makes the journey just awesome, just so beautiful, so worthwhile.
Well, I know that you kind of wear two hats. And I always talk about people speaking to their avatars, and sometimes they have multiple, and you definitely have to, because you're coaching, but you also are working to educate coaches and have them, go on as amazing coaches themselves. So if I was coming to you for coaching, who's your avatar? Who are the people that you can serve?
Oh, absolutely. Our juicy and delicious clients, my very favorite. Leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are looking for that clear roadmap to achieve their goals and just really get the hell out of their own way. Because I'll tell you, we've got clients in London, Chicago, Tennessee, Nashville, LA, New York, New Jersey. We've got clients all over, and male, female. We have clients, a variety of titles, experiences, bank accounts. Everybody says the same thing when I said, what's the biggest thing holding you back? Themselves, right? We are our own worst enemy. And it's about making peace with yourself, becoming your own best cheerleader, and also accessing that wisdom that resides within. Because yes, while people come to me for a game plan and a roadmap, we work on here first, right? In our mind and in our heart, so that we can get that blueprint on paper, and then we're unstoppable. Because when we get out of our own way, when we're very clear about what we want, we can make anything happen, absolutely anything happen. And it won't happen if we continue to trip over our own 2 feet.
Right. The only thing stopping you is you, for sure.
Yes, always. That was me. It wasn't the first panic attack, second, third, fourth, until I finally woke up and said, it's got to be different. I have to do this differently. But no one was going to come and like knock on my door and say, oh, Bailey, it's time for you to change your entire life. Are you ready? Like, that wasn't going to happen, right? We have to raise our hand and say, yes, like, things need to change. And that's when we, start Googling like you did, desperate for health answers. We start to say like, okay, I need a business coach, a life coach, who can help me with this question coach. And we get ourselves well-resourced.
So I'm going to give you a compliment here, because we were just talking earlier about a friend that we both have in common, and she spoke extremely highly of your coaching, said you took her to 6 figures. She just blew up. And by the way, I love her. She's huge, and she's going to be in our magazine on a regular basis now, doing her sex talk, but she is phenomenal. And she just raved and raved and raved about how amazing your coaching was and how it really pushed her to where she needed to go. So I just want to put that out there, because she's not here to say it herself.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I know. I can't wait to text her later. So we just had a total fangirl moment about you. But yeah, that's always the goal. It's like, tell me what mountain that you want to climb, and we will get you to the top of that mountain. And then once we're at the top of the mountain, you're going to see that there's a whole mountain range. We're going into our 7th year in business, and I'm proud to say that we have clients that we've had for over 6 years into 7 years. And why? It's not that we haven't accomplished the goal. It's the fact that, we help people to achieve their goal, and they're like, well, if you can help me do this, what else can you help me to do? Which was beautiful. And that's, and so if you keep hearing me say we, is that, we grew so much that we shifted the branding last year to MindRise. So shifted from my name as the company to MindRise. And we have a team of coaches that they have their own specialties in their own right, but under MindRise, they are life and leadership coaches that help you to create that roadmap. And to me, like, that's the next level of leadership, is not only when you do what you love, but you create a pathway for other people to do what they love. Like, to me, that's like next level, giddy up. And that's what we're all meant to do, whether it's through our kids, through our work, through our clients, through who we inspire, who we coach, is creating that pathway so that other people can shine their light.
So I want to switch over to your other hat real quickly. And I want to ask you about your coaching program for those who are listening, who are like, I want to do that. I want to serve. I have a passion and a desire to create, a wellness journey for someone, no matter what that looks like. How do they get a hold of you? And who is it that you're really educating?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. I mean, we've had everybody from people who are therapists who want to take the leap into coaching, to the realtor who's like, okay, you know what, I want to make a change here. We've had photographers, second people who are headed into their second career, really, and ultimately the perfect person for the program is somebody who wants not only to learn how to be a coach, a life and leadership coach, but they also want to learn how to have a successful coaching business, how to market your business, how to feel confident in your voice, how to launch a six-figure business. Because we can all say that we want to help, right? Like, yes, of course, I want to help. But how helpful are you going to be if you don't know how to spread your message into the world? So someone who's looking to do both things at the same time, they are the perfect person for our life and leadership coach training.
So how can people connect with you?
Absolutely. So simply just shoot me an email, Bailey@themindrise.com. You can check us out. Our website is themindrise.com. We hang out a lot on Instagram, so you can find us at the Mindrise and at Bailey Frumen. I'm always doing funny behind the scenes, and if you want to see the infamous Phoebe, head on over to my Instagram because that's where I'll be. So that's where we're really hanging out, and because ultimately, I think that when we want to create big change in the world, that change starts from within, and you have to have the right resources to do that. And if you want to, I think this is a good fun first leap, is it's about being able to have the resources and fire your fears. So if anyone is interested in taking that next leap and firing their fears, you can text the word fearless, so just capitals fearless, to 484848. And that will drop you into our 10-day challenge. We have a video series in there. And through that, we teach you not only how to identify what your goal is, but like how to actually make it happen. And truthfully, fire your fears so you can get the hell out of your own way. But yes, so texting fearless to 484848, that's a great place to start the conversation.
I love that. So that will be all in our show notes. For those of you who are just didn't write it down, you can go in there and just click the link and go right over there and do that. So Bailey, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for being on the magazine. I am so honored that you said yes, because what you don't understand, she really filled in a spot very quickly for me. And it seems like the universe always opens up the right door at the right time. So someone dropped out at the right time and somebody opened the door at the right time. So I'm very grateful to you. And I'm so grateful that you were on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.